Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. As I roll through Buckhead on my way to Trader Joe's, the old lady got me going to Trader Joe's now. I always thought Trader Joe's was expensive, but apparently it's not. I got sent on a mission for some non-dairy ice cream. Why she got a craving for that, I hadn't quite figured that out yet.
What about pickles? What about pickles?
Not yet. But she specifically said non-dairy ice cream. Um, Never had it before, but I heard it's the bomb. We shall see. Anyway, as I roll in my Jeep through Buckhead, that sounded like I was about to bust a float in it. As I roll through my Jeep in Buckhead, I was listening to our brother Tariq Nasheed. I've been missing his space the last couple of days. I'm gonna try to stay up tonight to do it, but I heard him and this African, and they were talking, about this African gentleman wanted severely. I think he's been on my stage before. He severely wanted to be FBA, and he was arguing with Tariq and our dear brother Robbie of how he is FBA and how he's just gonna tell us that he's us. Well, when Robbie Blue and Tariq uh, basically closed the case and let him know, hey brother, with all due respect, you're not us. That's okay, but you're not us. He went on a tantrum, and he said something I hear a lot uh, amongst vitriolic Africans. He said that, well, at least I'm paraphrasing him. He said, at least we don't kill each other and shoot each other in the streets. That's all y'all do is kill each other. And I said, you know what? I can't let that go because as a historian, I just wanted to beg the question: have FBAs ever led a genocide? Was he using the data based on a couple of alleged gang shootings in the last 30 years? I say alleged because our brother Dick Gregory said that the whole foundational black American gang warfareism was a front to cover organ harvesting. Dick Gregory spent millions of dollars studying why the brothers in the streets of Chicago and Los Angeles were never shot in the head. He's like, are they harvesting their organs? Anyway, I'm gonna leave that alone for another day, another space. So the question is, have Africans ever led a genocide? And have FBAs ever led a genocide? So let's start with the latter first. Wani, have we ever led a genocide?
No,
Right.
no. We have extremely low level crime, not organized crime. We don't move to other countries and start gangs in those countries or start gang wars in those countries. We have pockets of crime very similar to every other group on earth. Um, we don't even have organized crime. Our passports are not banned. We're not monitored by Interpol. We have no access to manufacturing drugs or the plants to make them. So, yeah, we are very, very low level when it comes to crime versus our opponent who have, remember, these people have every manner of crime. They have the typical street crime, gang type stuff. But they also have religious terrorism where they steal a whole school of girls and get them all pregnant and send them back. They also have political crime where you go to vote and everybody just shoots you and a whole bunch of people are dead outside the voting office. Then they also have tribal crime, where they just arrive at the market and kill everybody, like they do with the. It's mostly the Fulani. Just I don't know what the deal is. They're just killing random people, but it is tribally based. And then they have the police who kill them. SARS, remember that? In SARS, another thing that we were supposed to fight for them against after they call us bullet bags. So with their police, the police just are basically highway robbers. They just mug them. And they do it to us too, but they don't kill us because they don't want an international incident, but they just pull you over for no reason and try to steal your stuff or either make you pay so they don't steal your phone. Because obviously, if somebody wants your phone is valuable because it has your contacts and all this stuff. So you're going to pay them to not steal it, basically, how they work it. And then they have, like I said, they have every level of crime. It's like tiers and tiers of crime. These people are banned from entering countries. They're monitored by Interpol. They have 400 and some scams. They export the crime over to other people's countries and create gangs and levels of crime over there. So it's not a comparison.
Not at all. So, as a licensed historian, I'm going to say FBAs have never had a genocide. Matter of fact, we've had an opposite of a genocide. We have tried to abolish genocides and fight. We're the opposite. We fought in World War II to abolish genocides. Remember what our brother Mark Carter says about the black men, his uncle being in those in World War II, kicking in doors on the concentration camp to save the people in those camps in Nazi Germany. We, my father, was in that Vietnam War trying to stop genocides from happening in North Vietnam and in Cambodia, although they weren't supposed to be in Cambodia with Khmer Rouge there illegally, right? We have been there stopping genocides, and since that brother want to run his big old wide ass mouth, let's go there. Let's talk about the Congo. The year, ladies and gentlemen, is 1884, and we're talking about King Leopold, who was Leopold the Second, who was a European Belgian king, who liked he liked brothels. Yeah, the history books don't really talk about that, but King Leopold, you would think if you were a king and you had that status, you wouldn't have a problem, you know what I'm saying, having sex with a woman. How pathetic do you have to be a whole king and have to use prostitutes? Think about that for a minute. That's pathetic as fuck. Well, King Leopold, he liked his women of the night, and he had elaborate um, array of brothels all across Europe. And he ran into a problem. He couldn't pay for them because he was broke. So King Leopold invaded Africa. According to John G. Jackson, you damn right, I'm breaking out John G. Jackson on that ass. John G. Jackson said European powers got together and invaded the continent and reduced the majority of African peoples to colonial status. This caused further destruction of African culture. A good example of this brindage is the history so-called Congo Free State under the control of King Leopold III of Belgium. That's exactly what I was talking about. So, an international African association was formed by Leopold. Bam! When are we gonna learn to stop letting Europeans form our fucking organizations? Just like the NAACP was formed by people of Germanic descent. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod. The African International African Association was formed by Leopold, who was of Germanic descent. Why we let people form our? Anyway, I digress. He said, and at the Berlin Conference in 1884, several European powers interested in the stealing of African territory handed over the Belgian monarch the greater part of the Congo basin. So basically, Leopold got the Congo. Now, I know Leopold is a European and we're talking about African genocide, but it's important to let you know that Leopold had a slew of Africans working for him. Isn't that true, Wani? Could you tell us about the Africans?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This military force publique was stocked full of different types of Africans. Apparently, they started with the Nigerians and Sierra Leoneans and ended up with local Congolese tribes doing all the chopping off of the hands and the murder. Up to 10 to 30 million people were killed at the hands of those people. The reason I found that out is because I said, when I do research on these things, I said, I want to see a picture of these animals. that did this, that cut these people's hands off, that did all this killing. 30 million people is a lot of people. And I don't even know how that number is hard for me to understand. That's a lot. So I went to go get a picture to see them because I've seen pictures of white men standing next to Aboriginals and having them in chains. So I thought I was going to see something like that. But to my shock, the whole army was made up of Africans, which changed my opinion about Africans. I don't feel they should be able to just say they don't know any better and just be treated like animals that just do whatever people say. I don't believe that that's a legitimate argument anymore. Hello?
I'm talking through a mute again. I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to really go there, and we should never ever don't let these people don't let these diasporic Africans come around talking about how we bullet bags and how we violent. Remind them of King Leopold II. If you would look in the Jumbotron, ladies and gentlemen, you'll see what our dear sister Wani was talking about. That's military force publique. And you see a Belgian white man giving orders to Africans in African country. How does that work? Well, giving orders is one thing, but let's get something real clear. These Africans were working for King Leopold II. Again, King Leopold was in Congo to try to make money to support his hoes. He had plenty brothels, all like my mama say, plenty of brothels all over Europe that he was trying to support. And Leopold hired African soldiers to get his money. You look in the jumbotron, call me a lie. Well, according to John G. Jackson, the the methods that Leopold got that money from the Africans was very special. According to John G. Jackson, quote, the methods by these vast profits were accumulated were very simple. Each village, stop, African village, got it, quote, was ordered by the authorities to collect and bring a certain amount of rubber as the men could bring by neglecting all the work of their own maintenance. If they failed to bring the required amount, their women were taken away and kept as hostages in compounds or in whorehouses of government employees. Ain't that some shit? Stop right there. We're gonna keep reading, but let's eat that. Let's digest that right quick. So, y'all help me understand this, please, because I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, and sometimes I need help. Um, so Leopold, a white man, goes to jet black sub-Saharan Africa, hires a group of black Africans to get him his money for his hoes. And Leopold persuades these Africans in their own country to collect money. And if the innocent families who were collecting money didn't have enough money, then Leopold instructed them to go take their women and hold them in whorehouses until they got the money. And the Africans complied with this. Would FBAs ever do that? Would I let an outsider come to the hood and extort me out of money? And if I didn't have enough money, he'd take my wife or my sister and put her in a whorehouse until I brought him his money? Y'all already know what'd happen if that shit went down in Compton or in Bankhead. It would be an all out. Well, I'm not gonna say it on Spaces, but you get the point. Um, So if this, according to John G. Jackson, if this method failed, getting they women and turning them into prostitutes until they got Leopold his money, listen at this shit carefully. Get out your notepads, ladies and gentlemen. If, quote, if this method failed, native troops, many of them cannibals, did you know that, Wani?
Yes.
Were sent into the village to spread terror, if necessary, by killing some of the men. But in order to prevent a waste of cartridges, They were ordered to bring one right hand for every cartridge they used. If they missed or used cartridges on game, they cut off the hands of the living person to make up necessary number. The result
Wow.
was, according to estimate of Sir H. Johnson, which is confirmed from all other impartial sources, that in 15 years the native population was reduced from about 20 million to scarcely 9 million.
Oh, so it is around the 10 million mark.
More than that. It's around the 10 million mark, but that's like 11 in my calculation.
Yeah, because they were saying that it was between 10 and 30, but that doesn't sound right because if they knew their population, then that 30 number might be wrong. So we'll just say 10 million from now on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John G. Jackson could have had a wrong estimate, but 10 million fucking people. How do you How do you have a genocide in your homeland where 10 million fucking people were killed because of somebody's addiction to whores? Mind you, somebody that don't even look like you, and then you bring your butt over here to our country and criticize me because a couple of young men allegedly got in a shootout at a gas station. How does
And
this make
these guys,
sense?
these men, what we need to try to wrap our heads around, as they say, is that they don't view other tribes as themselves. And we don't get that because we view everybody as ourselves. Anybody that has one little drop of African ancestry is, oh, that's us. But that's not how they view it. So the Nigerians didn't care. It's not their tribe. The Sierra Leoneans didn't care. Wasn't their tribe. And those Congolese men, that picture you showed, those are Congolese men, at least the ones in the front that I could see. And I think they used them as a tribe together. So I don't think they had, oh, here's a Nigerian, here's a Congolese. I think they used them as in chunks, from what I could tell. Um, and so they were at some point they were killing their own group, which is so like if you don't care about killing your own group and you don't definitely don't care about Nigerians, definitely don't care about killing Congolese people, and those men will eat pygmies. They'll eat Twa people. So they are cannibals. And other groups around them are cannibals toward the Twa. So, it's just really we just need to understand who we're dealing with, and they don't see brown skin. They don't look at each other and go, oh, you're brown and I'm brown, so we shouldn't let this paler guy tell us what to. That's not how they think. You see, that's not the way they think.
Right, and the problem is, which is why I'm bringing it to my Black American brothers and sisters, is no vitriol included. This is just the facts, and if let the fucking facts land where they may. If they felt that way about their own people, how do you think they feel about you in America? You know what I'm saying? Dr. John G. Jackson said some of them were cannibals. They were like, "Fuck this, I'm gonna eat you." You know, that's what he said. Um, Native troops, many of them cannibals, were sent to the village to spread terror, if necessary, killing some of the men. That's page 311 in Introduction to African Civilization by Dr. John G. Jackson. Deal with it. Are you telling me that some of these people come over here and go to historically black colleges and I'm supposed to view you as my brother? We got to be realistic, black Americans. We are our number one priority. We need to learn how to um put family first. We This whole chattel slaveism has really messed with I'm including me, and our mind and making us think that we owe somebody something outside of our group, but we don't owe nobody shit. We owe each other, for Christ's sake. I owe you and you owe me. Let's keep it there. Have Africans ever led a genocide? That's one. Do you got another one, John Awani?
Oh
The
yeah,
Come
they do
on,
them all the time,
come on up. Give me another one.
and they're doing one in. Well, it's a continuous one that they do in Sudan, South Sudan. They have one going on in the Congo. It's just like it's continuous and it flares up. And so the confusing part is when they ask for help. It's like, shouldn't you be the one to help yourself? Why would foreigners come in to help you with you killing you? That, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like you can ask for help if it's a strange person invading your land, or if you're being abused as a minority because you have a different religion. Then of course you could say, hey, I'm a minority in this group, and I have a different religion. That's going to get you some sympathy. But when you are both armed and you are from the same country and you're running around shooting each other, what do you want us to do? I mean, you just have to work it out, because I don't think we can stop them from doing that. They keep doing it. They keep having their tribalist attitude, and that's what we're experiencing here. The only difference is they don't have a gun. They don't have any weapons to attack us with. So all they can do is open up rooms and try to bombard us on these task forces about reparations, or go to the OMB and try to throw monkey wrenches all over the place, or join organizations and pretend to be us, or get on the news and pretend to be us and say, oh, we don't need reparations. That's their genocide that they're trying to do to us. They're trying to destroy our future generations, because that's all they do. That they are genocide. That's their culture. The culture is genocide.
Yeah. So we have one. I've clearly with evidence talked about the genocide under King Leopold. Now, let me give you another one: the Rwandan genocide. There was a genocide in Rwanda. Um, uh, I'm gonna put evidence in the jumbotron. Stand by. This is evidence of the Rwandan genocide. Um, Hold on one second. Come on up. There it is. And this isn't funny, but I'm just, since they want to come in here and talk about how we bullet bags and how we shoot each other, you know, here goes evidence of the Rwandan genocide. Do I need to stop there? Nope. There was a genocide in Darfur. Hampton, what's on your mind?
Peace and love, family. Yeah, I wanted to actually hop in on that Rwanda. Uh, I wanted to go ahead and fly in on that Rwanda landing strip.
Come on.
Um, you know, what's crazy is I'm sure everybody's probably seen the movie Hotel Rwanda. And if you haven't watched it, it's with Don Cheadle, phenomenal movie. And it showed the difference of how tribalistic they were, right? And how the Belgians separated the Hutus and the Tutsis. So when they took the Tutsis, they chose people with finer noses, lighter skin, things of that nature, and used the Tutsis to rule over the Hutus. And of course, they oppressed them. So when the Hutus got the power, first thing they did was start massacring the Tutsis. Men, women, children, elderly, didn't matter. Hacking them up with, I mean, it was all over world news, and I remember seeing it as a child. Hacking them up with machetes, murdering all types of people, and this is a mass genocide on a massive level, and that's just one. But also, just to add this, and then I'll land my plane, Paul Rosasebegene, who was the dude that was running the hotel Rwanda, the hotel that was holding the refugees. They actually end up arresting that dude. They actually have that dude right now, and they had him. I'm not sure if he's passed on or what, but just recently they arrested him and held him for war crimes. And the reason they're saying they did it, they can't. This is how dysfunctional they are sometimes over there. The reason they're saying they're holding him is because the president is jealous of his fame from the movie that he got. And so they're saying they're holding him for war crimes and saying he participated in the genocide. It's dysfunction. And so they have no right to talk about FBA. And I land my plane there.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. So I appreciate that scholarship. So he just talked about Rwandan genocide. If you look in the jumbotron, you'll see a bunch of skulls. That's evidence that the UN found that the genocide was occurring. Some of them skulls are of children, for Christ's sake. And since they want to call us bullet bags, I mean, you'll notice some bullet holes in some of them skulls. So I guess we're not alone. Um, Now let's move on. There was a genocide in Darfur. Is that it? Nope. Let's go to genocide in Nigeria. Hold on, I'm putting in the jumbotron right now. So, like our dear sister Wani said, you're looking at a culture of genocide, a culture of violence. So, and I'm not celebrating their downfall. I'm just saying, given the fact that they have a verifiable culture of genocide spread out across the African mainland, what gives them the audacity? What gives them the moxie? What gives them the confidence to come into my spaces in my country and call me a bullet bag and say that I have a culture of genocide? Can somebody please answer that for me?
We
Projection,
have
projection.
yes, it is minuscule crime compared to astronomical crime and continuing violence and a whole legacy of selling people. Unbelievable, destroying people's lives for thousands of years before they ever heard of a trans-Saharan or a transatlantic slave trade. Just the whole attitude is that of whoever doesn't have the right to exist.
And
So
sister, if
yeah,
I can piggyback off what you were just saying,
go ahead.
you said you hit home, you hit the nail right on the head earlier when you said they view those other tribes as different people.
Bam,
Okay.
that's it.
They don't have our identity as foundational black Americans, because we've been remixed and relabeled so many times. Our identity is within our blackness. Our blackness takes precedence. We look at our brothers and sisters as our brothers and sisters. But
Preach.
unfortunately, over on the continent, they're so divided into so many different tribes and customs and languages. They have so many different ways of life amongst each other, hundreds of tribes stuffed into one country, millions of people. They view those people as differently. So it's no problem if I whack the other tribe and send them packing off to the white folks. Because I see the white folks as a different tribe too. They just another tribe. They just got lighter skin. So they don't view their brothers and sisters within blackness. They view themselves, when they get over here, they view themselves as a Nigerian, or they view themselves first as an immigrant. Okay, their identity is based in here. Our identity is based in our blackness. When they get here, their identity is first an immigrant. They are then a Nigerian or a Ghanaian or whatever country they come from. Then they are an African as a whole, and their blackness comes somewhere around fourth or fifth. I've talked to brothers and sisters from the continent, and they done told me straight out. They said, Hampton, let me tell you something. I forget that I forget that I'm black when I go home. When I go home, I don't even think that I'm black. When I get back to America, that's when I realize I'm black. So they don't even have that same type of mentality of fighting the beast, because we in the belly of it. So they don't have that same mentality of fighting against it, because they just view everybody as different, different tribes. And I land my plane there.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, one of my purposes, I defend black, foundational black Americans. Y'all are my family. Y'all are my tribe, and I'm letting y'all know that this is the attitude you're dealing with respect to not all. There are a bunch of writers from Africa. I met writers in sub-Saharan jungle of Ghana. I hear a lot of good things about South America. I mean South Africa, excuse me. You know, there are writers in Ethiopia. You know, but what I am identifying is like my grandmama used to say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And a lot of these folks have absolute vitriol for us. So let's not take the heat. And if I could sum up what I'm trying to say in one sentence, I would say um, we're responsible for each other. Sweep around. My grandmama didn't have a fancy law degree, but my grandmama said, "Sweep around your sweep around your front door before you sweep around mine, baby." And Black Americans, it's time in 2025 that we start sweeping around our front door. I'm responsible for you. You're responsible for me. Outsiders, if we got something left over, we can go see about them. But these folks ain't, they're not really concerned with us. Black Truth, it's good to see you, man. What's going on?
Salute Professor Allen. Salute Sister Wani. Salute to the room. Just wanted to add this quick insight. I do like how you're going over these various genocides carried out over the in the quote unquote continent, and how FBAs have obviously never led a genocide, but these African countries and African tribes have. One thing I want to point out is that none of these people buck up against white people, they don't buck up against Asians, East Indians, any of these other groups that go over and colonize their country. The difference between them and us is that we'll buck up against any group. We don't care if it's the Asians, we don't care if it's an East Indian rolling up on us, white people. We've gone against all these other groups and we are not afraid of them. Whereas in these other countries, the only people who they'll buck up against and fight against and attack are groups and tribes that are right next door to them that share common a lot of commonalities. But I just wanted to point that out, and also the fact that when you look at when you look at the genocides over in the continent, it's no different than when the Europeans went over to South America and other places and started using tribal conflicts against the other tribes. So they would take one group of Native Americans and they say, hey, we'll make a deal with you. If you go against that tribe, we'll give you superior weapons, and we'll make you a superior tribe. You're better than them. It's the same thing you pointed out with the genocide in Rwanda. They started giving them compliments, started separating them, kind of like that Willie Lynch type stuff, but specifically they exploit these minute differences between the groups and use them to kill one another, and then before you know it, they're standing up in the land with all the land, all the resources, all the oil, all the gold, and that's just their MO. So, they've fallen for that, but as far as I'm concerned, FBAs have never done that and never will do that to our own people or to any other group. And I'll land right there.
Yes, sir. Black Truth. The
Mhm.
Black Truth said something I want to comment on right quick. He basically, I'm paraphrasing him, said we're not afraid to stand up for what's right. Earlier, about 15 minutes ago, I read to you when I was going through John G. Jackson's masterpiece. I was talking about how I really want y'all to wrap your minds around this. How a white man came to sub-Saharan Africa and rounded up a bunch of Africans to not only kill innocent men, women, and children, but if the innocent men, women, and children didn't have enough of this goddamn sorry ass pimp, I'm not even gonna call that motherfucker a pimp. He's a simp with a goddamn crown on. This crown simp didn't give him enough money. Um, these Africans would really consider and really execute the order of killing innocent women, putting them into prostitution on behalf of a European. That is fucking insane. We would have fucking died before that happened. Like Medgar Evans, man, FBAs, man. When it get to a certain point, it's time to follow Medgar Evers. You know what I'm saying? If there is a time when women and children are involved. Hey, man, you know what time it is. Come on, Black Truth.
I just wanted to point out as well, they do that in Asia, specifically in Southeast Asia and also in the quote unquote Middle East. Some of you in a previous space, probably about a month ago, were talking about the Bachi boys. A lot of the families of those boys are complicit in selling the boys off to be essentially dancing prostitutes for sick pedophilia infested Arabs in that land. So a lot of this happens not only in Africa but all over, even in Latin America. They have they have different systems and places where you can go and get children. We don't have that kind of culture, or we don't have those kinds of parts in FBA society. If you run up to a brother asking for, or where can I get a 14-year-old, you're likely to not be talking for very long. And I'll just leave it at that.
Do I have permission to get real deep with y'all? Can I go there? Well, Harvard University did a study years ago when I was a youngster. Let's just put it that way, where they wanted to see acoustic records. They wanted to see if DNA had some type of record that we can, like do we have genetic memory? Is the best way to put it. Genetic memory. You know, um, most of you in here have a nephew or niece or a son or a daughter who acts just like somebody in the family. You remind me of so and so. You act just like a so and so, right? Well, Harvard went to South America and saw a bird. The name of the bird always escapes me, but it was a tiny bird that lived in the canopy of the rainforest. Very violent place. I've been there. Shit, change is constant there. There's always something to gobble you up. Well, this bird realized one day, fuck it, I'm a bird. I got wings. So it flew to the top of the trees and lived there 10,000 years without a predator, happily ever after, until a bird of prey got lost and said, what the fuck is that? It's food, is what it is. And it acquired one predator. Now, this hawk or eagle, I forget the name of these birds, um, would fly into the sun. Birds of prey fly into the sun and attack you out of the sun because when you look at the sun, you get blinded. It's a brilliant tactic. Our fighter pilots adapted it in World War II. Well, anyhow, the last thing that these baby birds would see before they died was a shadow get cast because a bird would fly into the sun and attack them in the shadow. Couple seconds, they're dead. Stop right there. I saw in Memphis has a bunch of birds of prey, hawks and owls. Tennessee is very interesting. Equally, it's very beautiful in a strange type of way. In a log cabin type of beautiful. Well, I was outside walking my dog when a red hawk flew into the sun and came down like at vertical terminal velocity and at the last minute stuck his talons out and hit a pigeon. The sheer kinetic force that bird had in his foot exploded the goddamn pigeon. I heard boom like a gunshot, and feathers went everywhere, and there were pieces of the bird raining out the sky. That's the type of force hawks hit with. It's like a gunshot. Well, anyway, which makes sense. Newton's law, what mass times velocity equals force. So they're heavy. They're coming out that sky, high velocity, hitting and transferring that velocity into your chest. Well, anyway, this bird would last thing they would see is a shadow, like I said earlier, a shadow be cast before they get clobbered, probably exploded. And so Harvard scientists and grad students took eggs from that bird and took them back to Cambridge, Massachusetts to a lab and hatched them. They had never been to the jungle as a bird or as a hatchling. And they wanted to see what would happen if you put a light in the bird's face and then put a piece of paper in front of it to cast a shadow. Y'all know what happened? The baby birds freaked out. So here goes the question. How in the fuck did they know to freak out? They never been to the jungle. They never been attacked by a bird. Well, the deduction is their DNA had a record. It was written in their DNA code that if you see a shadow in that nest, somebody about to die. Right? So if it's in a bird, it's in a human. So let's do a little analysis right quick. Um, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about African tribal leaders that fucking sold us. That you know what? That's becoming my life mission is to identify that we were sold by African tribal leaders. I went to Ghana a year ago to do some research, and that I really can't even articulate how it dawned on me that man, you fucking sold me. That's gonna be a whole nother space when I learn how to articulate it. But long story short, Dr. Claude Anderson identifies that African tribal chiefs sold us into the slave trade, and basically they're the ones that made breathed life into the system of white supremacy because Europe was broke and stanking and didn't have nothing. These Africans gave them enough to get them on their feet, right? Dr. Claude Anderson says the self destructive attitudes of the tribal chiefs have yet to be fully understood or explained. I said it backwards, explained or understood. But historian Norman Cohns offer one explanation as to why the chiefs willingly traded their valuable resources to European and Arab traders. According to Cohns, African tribal chiefs willingly participated in such questionable trade practices because West African economies were substance based and therefore people were satisfied with the status quo and saw no need to accumulate wealth and power. Basically, African chiefs were balling and trying to show off to a European he didn't understand. Now, how does this fit into the title? It fits directly into the title because I'm saying, how can we trust somebody that has the acoustic record of people who A, sold us into goddamn slavery, and B, have a genocide every other week? Any questions? Hampton, what's on your mind?
And I wanna add to that. I've spoken to, you know, I call them our distant third, three times removed cousins from the continent. I've spoken to a lot of them, and some of them, they have this mentality, right? They look at it like we weren't good enough to be African, so our ancestors were sold. And I found that very interesting. I thought that was a very interesting perspective because it shows the lack of remorse. It shows and it explains why none of them Negroes ever came back to get none of them that they sent off. You understand what I'm saying? They made no effort to. One of the most important resources is what? Humans. Labor, manpower, military power, strength. They made no effort to reclaim any of their lost, quote unquote, brethren because they weren't their brethren, but even more interestingly, because they thought many of them were not good enough to be African. I found that very interesting, and it goes along to that point of that mentality of being able to sell off actual people as damn the people as being able to sell off resources to stunt for a person that you don't even understand. You don't understand their motives, you don't understand why they're there, and you understand what they're doing, but you want to stunt. And it's very interesting. It goes along to that point.
Now I see Sakim. Sakim?
Yeah, it's Kim Montus. That's my call
I'm
name.
talking through a mute. Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What's up, bro?
Coming from the SIP, family from Mississippi and North Carolina.
Okay.
First time to talk. Just want to say, man, I was ex-military. I've been had a chance to go around the world, and from what I'm seeing, I think the root of our problem is that we the only people that actually has a true value system. And what I mean by that is everybody, if you really go and look at everybody's history, everybody pretty much has the same history of degeneracy and violence except us. And that's what unites Africans with white folks. You get what I'm saying? When the European came, they had a
I agree
connection
with that.
immediately. And the same thing with the Arab. If you study Arab history, they were savages. And what do Africans do with them? They went with them immediately. If you look at the Asians, when they got rid of the black Asians and all this stuff, they all shared in savagery. And the issue that we have is that we never was savages like that. So when you start putting those things in context, you start realizing that that's part of the resentment. Because white people hate us not because we do anything to them. It's just the idea that if we could do something, if we decide to turn savage, but we never did. No matter what they did, we never did. We stood on our square. And so that resentment for us being a better human being than everybody else has been problematic. And that includes the fact that we don't share their value systems. And I'll land my plane.
I can't.
You're
Okay.
absolutely right. We're the only humanitarians. The other people are not humanitarian minded. That's why they could easily vote against immigration and have their own family members get deported. They don't think like that. As long as they got theirs, that's all that matters. And we're the only ones running around doing humanitarian acts. As I said before, Black Americans, first of all, the United States of America gives more charity than any other country. On top of that, Black Americans give 25% more money than our white counterparts or than other people in America. So we, in fact, give the most charity than anybody on the planet to these people that we're talking to. We have a humanitarian spirit and we have the receipts on that. These other people won't even help their neighbor if they have a problem. In fact, I had one Caribbean woman that I was speaking to say that when a hurricane comes, they root against the other islands to get hit by it. They hate each other's
Wow.
guts. And they're not, that's not even Africa. And so they still have that tribalist attitude. They compete for who invented which little dish, and none of them have invented anything of note. And that's why they're over here lying and just on and on and on, claiming that everybody with a French last name, anybody in New Orleans, is actually them. That's what we're up against. We're really up against people that do have this mentality of not valuing human life. And we're expecting them to act a way that they don't do. Now, we know white people perform humanitarianism, they just perform it. They just go out and say, "Hey, well, this is the right thing to do. We should all do this," and they that's how they do their charitable works. But it shows up in the record that we do give more money than these other groups.
Go ahead, Black Truth.
Thanks, Professor Allen. I don't want to cut in front of Mississippi Blue. I know he's new to the stage.
Okay, go ahead, Mississippi
Oh, I
Blue.
didn't see Mississippi Blue. My bad.
I didn't either. Oh, I didn't see his hand up.
Hey everybody. I just came up to speak about the topic. Okay, so it says how have Africans ever led a genocide? And have FBAs ever led one? I wanted to bring up um, I remember they had it where they were sending us over to Liberia, and I think that was back in 1835. They were sending some of the black Americans there and everything. I guess they were trying to um, call themselves doing the abolitionist movement or whatever they were doing. But anyway, I remember that they sent black Americans there, and then I remember that the people, of native Africans or whatever, they were massacring those black Americans who were sent there to Liberia, and it got to the point where the U.S. had to actually send troops in order to get them to stop, to basically beat them away and to force them to sign like a peace treaty in order for the few people who they sent there to stay safe in that country. And we don't have a history or a culture of that type of action. We don't have any type of genocidal tendency. We don't have a culture of genocide. We've never had any type of culture of ritual killings. We don't have a culture of cannibalism. I mean, even during the Devil's Punch Bowl massacre, when they were starving our people out, we didn't. There wasn't a single instance of cannibalism. No one ate each other. Even when they saw people dying right beside them and they were starving to death, most chose to starve to death rather than eat their own people. But in Africa, they use cannibalism as a war tactic, not just to intimidate other tribes, but I believe some of them think that they are absorbing the powers of their enemies or they're absorbing some of their vitality, and that's not a real thing, but they believe that because their minds are very tribal, very primitive. I mean, as black Americans, they could never call themselves us, and we could never be them, because think about it this way: we got our own cultural issues going on, we got our own traditional customs, we got our own traditional education, our own social independence movements we've fostered, we've got our own social and political leaders, we got our own history, we got our own roots, our own people, our own language, our own accents, our own religious views, our own traditional superstition. We got our own music, our own dances, our own cuisines. We got our own fashion, family traditions. We got our own literature. We wrote books. We built schools. We got our own oral traditions. We got our own poetry, art. We got all of that. And none of that stuff came out of Africa, and none of that stuff has anything to do with them. So when I see them trying to connect themselves to us with all that we went through here in this country, it kind of irritates me. That's why I don't vibe with the whole out of Africa thing for all of us, because I did my genealogy and I did my family lineage, and I didn't find no Africans in my family lineage. It don't matter how any of us look. I didn't find none in my lineage. I went all the way back to 1735, and I didn't find any Africans on either side. So I understand what a lot of people say when they say, "Well, we all originally came from Africa." I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to consider it, everybody as a human race coming from Africa through, I guess, Lucy, what the first humanoid creature. I mean, if that's what you would use to connect all humans back to Africa, then I guess that applies to the entire world, no matter where they are. But beyond that, I don't see any of us as being from there, and that's probably another disconnect that we have among Africans, because we really aren't the same people. We don't have the same heritage. We don't have the same roots. So for them, they can't get along with a group of people who are on the other side of the river from them. But some of our people, like the people who subscribe to Pan Africanism, they think that these people who live thousands of miles away can somehow connect with them, and they try to drag everybody else into it to go and support Africa. But what we need to be doing is focusing on ourselves as Black Americans, focusing on our reparations, focusing on getting our land back that was taken by this government here. And we need to let these foreign groups focus on themselves and do what they have to do. We need to make a way to keep them out of our face, keep them out of our business, out of our affairs, because it has nothing to do with them. It ain't their reparations. They didn't suffer what we suffered on this land. And we need to realize that and bring our people to realize that. And we need to keep them out of our business overall. And with that, I'll land.
Oh yeah, good, great point. I'll never forget when I first went to West Africa. I was, I'm gaslit just like everybody else. I was waiting to have an emotional, kind of I'm home, because America has been really rough, particularly because I'm from Alabama. Alabama's a whole different type of America growing up there, But I landed in Accra, and I walked outside the airport and was walking down the street, and I saw a group of Africans walking up. And I remember looking at them like I'm ready to have this emotional, oh, run up and give them a hug, color purple moment. And I caught eyes with them, and I was like, man, these ain't my people. Like, it was very strange. It's the only way I know how to explain it is every FBA in here knows when you go out of town and you go to the black side of the neighborhood, no matter if you're in New York, DC, Alabama, when you see some brothers or some sisters, you go to a barbershop, it's like, man, what up? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's something unspoken. Maybe Major spirit, I don't know. But it's something, oh, that's me. That's one of mine right there. I didn't have that same feeling in Africa, and they may have felt like distant cousins, but I knew right away that that's not my lineage. Now that's not scientific, but it's real. You know what I'm saying, and that's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with us saying that. Hey, we are this, and we're very proud of who we are. Before I go to Hampton, I want to let y'all know in the Jumbotron you'll find Wani Spots, Cash App, show her love. Also, if you want to know more about our heritage as foundational Black Americans, I did a study on it and wrote a book for the class. My department head at Lemoyne Owen College of Education allowed me to write the book on the class, and I was gonna say, like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, I was not tenured, but it's in the my Cash App's in the Jumbotron. Put $25 on my Cash App and put your full address with zip code, and I will send you out a copy. Um, about mid this week, I'll send them out Wednesday. If you want me to sign or something, let me know in the Cash App. All right, moving right along. Let's see what Hampton. What's going on, bro?
To piggyback off what you were saying, Professor Allen, was when you broke down, you didn't feel that spirit with them, right? I wanted to share
Right.
an interesting experience very similar to that one. I worked with this African sister, and we worked in a predominantly white corporation, obviously, well, predominantly white office, and the FBA brothers and sisters, when we got together for lunch, we all kind of sat in the same section. You know what I'm saying? And there's an old book. I'm not sure if anyone's ever read it, but it's an old book called "Why Are All the Black Children Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?" Phenomenal read. Breaks down the psyche of Black Americans and how we naturally will group together, right? Because we understand the history and our lineage and everything that we faced. And this Nigerian sister, she would come in and she would always sit with the white people. And so in my mind, this was when I at the time, admittedly, I was a Pan Africanist. I'll admit that at that time I was a Pan Africanist. But in my mind, I'm thinking this sister, come sit with us, sister. Like, hey, sister girl, come sit with us. You ain't gotta sit. Come sit with us. Come talk to us. But she refused to, even after the invitation. See, initially I thought it was just maybe she's nervous, maybe she's shy. These are just the people in her department. But even after the invitation, she still wanted to stay. She made a cognitive effort to stay away from us. And so I sat down and spoke with her, and I found it interesting. She said, when my family gets here, we're thinking about trying to get into the closest proximity of the dominant society. The dominant society is the white society. So we want to be around them. I want to be around them. I want to speak like them. I want to eat lunch with them because they are the ones that are in charge. See, she looked at us like we were just, not only what did she look at us like a completely different tribe, but she kind of knew, she fell on cold with the white supremacists, so to speak, right? She fell on cold with the suspected white supremacists, and I found that incredibly interesting, and it just brought me to that point of we the way we saw each other and the way that we wanted to kind of feel each other out at that time, even as a pan in my Pan African mindset at the time, I thought this is my sister. She proved me wrong, and she helped push me toward delineation and understanding what my true tribe really is. And so I found that very interesting, Professor Allen, and I'm glad that I could piggyback off that point because you were certainly right. It is not that same feeling when you have that right tribe. When you know you're a Freeman, you know you FBA, it is not the same feeling when you're talking to one of them.
I'm
Yeah.
talking through a mute. I'm just been doing that all day, talking through mute. But yeah, yes, sir. I like, and even just to piggyback off of what you're saying, even speaking to you, I can tell when it's a FBA. I can, and this gonna sound crazy. I know we like to be scholarly and pretend like I know everything and got all these books, but this isn't book stuff. I can hear it in your voice. I know, and I don't know how to explain that, but I can hear it in your voice when you're FBA. It's not just an accent either. It's something about the vibration of voice tones. I don't know how to explain it. I can tell when people are trying to hide a West African accent. But what you were talking about, brother, I just put in a jumbotron. That's a feudal hierarchy of Europe, of England. Now, why does this apply to Africa? It applies to Africa because they were they were conquered by according to John G. Jackson, by the Europeans. John G. Jackson says, quote, after the abolition of the slave trade, Africans were not given a chance to recover from centuries of bondage. Instead, the European powers got together, invaded the continent, and reduced the majority of the African peoples to colonial status. When the Europeans came in after the slave trade that the Africans gave them that goddamn slave trade. Never forget that. When they came in after they got that gift, um, as a reward to the Africans for giving them the goddamn slave trade, they knocked them over the head and took their shit and colonialized them. And that's what the fuck they got. I said it in Spain. I said it. Anyway, my point is, the African they were called territorial kingdoms, I think. The territorial kingdoms were rearranged into European structures, just like that shit you see in a Jumbotron. King, queen. Now, it may not have been a queen, it maybe been parliament. but it was a hierarchy created. And last time I was in West Africa, even staying at people's houses, I stayed with dignitaries and quote unquote rich folk. It was, it wasn't as cool as it sounded. But I did see like a feudal hierarchy. The people in the village people were actually really decent and cool. They were real people, but they were in a caste system. They were coming to dance for us at night, and I'm not gonna say that they snapped their fingers at these people, but it was something like that. It was like, yeah, there wasn't a eye to eye treatment with the bush people and the aristocrats. And last but not least, I've wondered about these fucking aristocrats with their BMWs and their Gucci suits on. Mind you, those Gucci suits do not look right on an African body, so they needed. Y'all just go ahead and spread the word back to West Africa. They need to find some other European suits. Don't look well on them, nor do European glasses look well on their face. But I often wondered, were these people driving the BMWs and the Bentleys and shit over there in West Africa, were they related to the people who sold me? But I couldn't prove it. Moving right along. All right. Have Africans ever led a genocide? Well, if one was to look to the Jumbotron, we'll see at least four genocides led by people of African descent in different countries. Last part of the question: have foundational Black Americans ever led a genocide? I think the overwhelming answer is no. Can anybody come up to prove me wrong?
I wanted to piggyback on what Mississippi was saying.
Go ahead, Wani.
Um, it's just a strange phenomena that everybody on six continents has participated in cannibalism for the same identical reasons. That they think that if they eat someone, they're going to gain their powers. So we know that the European was drinking the blood of the Roman soldiers and just drinking the mummy tea. Remember, they were drinking mummy tea because they thought it was going to make them mummies. I mean, not mummies, they thought it was going to make them Egyptian kings and queens. So everybody has that attitude about it. That cannibalism is very interesting. We might go into that if you want to segue into some cannibalism tales, but
Uh,
not
oh,
yet.
Wani, no, I was just gonna continue what you were saying. We had that here in America. If you remember, I think we went over it maybe a few months ago, where they had Haitians and a few Cubans and others coming here to America, and they were digging up the corpses of our people here.
Yes.
And I know they were doing it for that Haitian voodoo and Santeria, or they call it Palo Mayambe, back where they come from. And those practitioners was breaking into black cemeteries in Florida on 46th Street and stealing the bones and bodies from the graves, including those of little kids. You can look that up, and that was at the Lincoln Memorial Park. And they had some of the burial of some of Miami's most prominent black leaders. Three of the graves that they robbed and broke into included small children, child celebrities, and things like that. And they ransacked it for over 2 months. And they were using the body parts because they believed that it invoked power, and they believe that getting the bones of a black American with our heritage of slavery, with our heritage of survival, and with all that we've been through would bring them greater prosperity, greater power. They were literally practicing Caribbean witchcraft using the bones of our people. And you don't hear a lot about that, but they do some of their traditions here that they were doing back in their own homelands. I mean, I know that people thought that people were crazy, or like Trump, he was crazy last year when he said they're eating the cats in Ohio. And people don't realize, yeah, they were. And the way we know it is because they have a dish back in Haiti called Viand Chat. That's Vyann chat, CHAT, and it literally translates to cat meat. And these people in Haiti eat this stuff as part of their cultural cuisine. And when they came to America, these people were unvetted. They were simply dumped into a lot of American communities. And when they saw wild animals, cats, geese, dogs, they went and grabbed them up and, did what they did back in Haiti. So a lot of this degenerate culture that we're starting to see here, and a lot of the stuff that they do back in their homeland, they come here and they don't change. And keep in mind, these people, some of them, most of them, didn't take no oath of allegiance. So they didn't go through a process of vetting or anything like that. They simply came illegally in most cases and came to these communities, and they brought with them all of their diseases, their cultures, and the things that they did there. And that's why we have, resurgences in TB. We got resurgences in measles and things that we cured basically 100 years ago coming back, because everywhere they go, they import everything that comes from their land, including the viruses they bring in their degenerate cultures. And that's why I have an issue when people try to connect us with Africa or Africans or people from the Caribbean or otherwise, because we don't have that type of culture. We went through things back when we didn't have lights, we didn't have lanterns, we didn't have things, and we made a way in this country. And all of that you see before you, we built and we created. And for someone to just come over here and attach themselves to us, claiming that because we share a skin color, makes us somewhat in common or brings some kind of common ground, and it's just not true. I've never woken up in the morning and thought about eating my next door neighbor. I've never woke up in the morning and went and saw a cat walking down the path and wanted to eat it. That doesn't cross my mind because it's not in my spirit. That's not in my blood to do that. That's not part of my ancestry. So I wouldn't have an inclination to do that. But these people have an entirely different mindset. And the reason why they treat us the way that they do when they come here, or what people allow them to treat them that way, is because they don't see any humanity in us. Not only don't they have any humanity, because if you look at all the genocide they got going on back at their homes, they don't have any humanity towards other tribes who live across the river from them. So why would I suspect them to have it for us here in America?
Right.
And they don't.
Very true.
Oh, and that massacre that I was telling you guys about, that was called the Port Cresson massacre. It happened in Liberia, and that was involving Africans killing Black Americans in 1835. And with that, I'll
Yeah.
land.
Thank you. Yeah, that's another one. There's a whole lot. There's like tons of them. Um, Go ahead, Black Truth. And I'm gonna give some info on cannibalism.
Got a few insights. I liked what Brother Mississippi Blue was saying as usual. I wanted to add that yeah, it's definitely a spiritual thing. Even when I'm going through different businesses and I'm trying to detect whether they're FBA, and I'm using AI and all different types of tools, there's a certain spirit when you hear someone talk. It's not necessarily the accent that they have, it's the spirit that they bring with it. What words do they emphasize? Where's their heart at? Where is the emotion behind what they're speaking? It's not necessarily, hey, that person's from Texas, that's an FBA. No, it's not that, because we have foreigners attempting to copy our accents. Just look at New York. It's the spirit behind what they're saying. When you hear someone say, "Yeah, we don't deserve reparations," and what? That's just not in our spirit. As someone who's FBA would not say something like that, in a realistic aspect, unless they're getting paid and there's some kind of sellout coon or something. But also, I wanted to add real quickly that the quote unquote philanthropy from other groups, from white groups, Asians. That's all the guys. That's all fake. They're all running scams overseas. They're collecting blood and doing all kinds of medical tests. They're stealing minerals and stuff and dropping off bags of rice. And a lot of these people have these foundations where they're paying their cousins and brothers and stuff to sit on boards and literally do nothing, or they're buying yachts and all kinds of exotic stuff with the money. So just know that a lot of these things that other groups do, when you hear about the Bill and Melinda Gates and this and that foundation, and this group did this overseas, and oh, they helped so many people, a lot of that's just all fake. And then the last point I wanted to add was with what we were talking about with cannibalism. And I know Sister Wani is going to talk about this, so I wanted to save this one for last. We got to remember that the white supremacists were very into cannibalism. That was one of their main go tos. If anyone questions that, look up the book, The Delectable Negro. We're talking about boiling bodies. We're talking about burnt, boiling skin down, saving it as oil, eating genitals, uh, chopping. Literally, they have inside of the book they talk about different seasonings for humans. I mean, it's some sick stuff. And so we have to definitely acknowledge that they are the number one cannibals, I would say, on planet Earth. But with that, I'll land. I'll go ahead and drop down too.
Well, I want to before Wani educates us on cannibalism. I want to kind of quickly, if I may, let you know one of the reasons why I will not tolerate another group coming in after our reparations. They haven't been through what we've been through. And I'm gonna hit y'all with some brand new scholarship for a split second for our sister Wani educates us.
House Negro.
This comes from what was that?
You're a house Negro.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't speak.
You're a motherfucking house Negro.
Uh,
He's
who are
just
you?
mad. He's
Who is
mad.
that? Who is
No,
that?
it's okay. I got it. I
No,
got it.
Roddy.
Because I don't know
You're
what.
a house Negro.
No,
You're a white
Roddy.
boy.
Yeah, this is an African.
He's mad.
He got hit, but he got hit by a stray, and he upset. Hey,
You're a
you
white boy.
following this house, Negro? Yeah, you following me around, man. Go. Wait, where your
You're
space
a
at,
white
bro?
boy.
He thinks we're gonna do some cannibalism
Yeah, he
recipes, but we're
yeah
not.
he
We
heard
are not
cannibalism
doing
and came here
cannibalism
You got
with
the
a
white
fork
man
and
balls in your
recipes.
spoon.
mouth.
You can't eat anything on
You
the
got the white
stage.
bulb. You got the white man balls in your
Hey, I
mouth.
don't have any albino arms for you, son.
Oh my
I'm all out of
goodness.
albino arms.
You got the white man dick in your mouth.
Now I removed you, and actually, you don't have anything to add, so I'm blocking you, sir. He has nothing to add. Like I was saying, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I won't tolerate people like that cannibal loser that was in my space a minute ago is because of the things that we went through during the slave trade. I want to hit y'all with some new scholarship from Frederick Douglass's biography. This is what Frederick Douglass said. According to Frederick Douglass, quote, "My mother and I were separated when I was but an infant, before I knew her as my mother. It is a common custom in the part of Maryland from which I ran away to part children from their mother at a very early age, frequently before the child has reached his 12th month, and its mother is taken from it and hired out on some farm considerable distances off. The child is placed under the care of an old woman, too old for field labor. For what this separation is done, I do not know, unless it is to hinder the development of the child's affection towards its mother, and to blunt and destroy the natural affection of the mother for the child. This is the inevitable result." These are the common practices during the slave trade in America that this government needs to pay for. This government needs to write us a check for that. Robbie Blue. Oh, Wani and then Robbie Blue. Go ahead, Wani.
No, let Robbie go
Go ahead,
first.
Robbie.
Good evening, good evening. How you doing, Wani? How you doing, Professor?
What's up, bro?
I'll keep it short and sweet. Have Africans ever led a genocide? Have FBAs ever led a genocide? I'll answer the second part first. Our people have survived a genocide, and they're trying to go full court press to try to complete an ethno genocide on us. But of course, we'll prevail because knowing is half the battle. As far as Africans being led into a genocide, I know they've had wars, but when it comes to genocide, it's of their own doing, like kind of what they did to us, some of our ancestors through, the slave trade and them being Benedict Arnold, but also the white supremacists, I think encourages their tribalism. That's why their tribalism is so deadly. And that's why the gentleman you had in coming here previously, you know, That's why it's important to have boundaries because people should recognize it's a privilege to get on stage. It's a privilege to be able to speak to our people, and it's a privilege to have your opinion heard. People take it for granted and they just think like this is some lowbrow, Jerry Springer, typical pop culture BS. But we're here sitting here handling business. And when I'm in the midst of people who are heavyweights like yourself and Wani and Nikki and Tariq, I just like to listen. It's actually comforting to my spirit to see that there's other people like me that want to hear and that want to learn and that they want to make a difference. So that's the main thing is once you start making it exclusive, like I say it now, if a white supremacist wants to speak on stage, it's $100 for 30 seconds and they have to cash app somebody in the space or whatever. That's how you get rid of the riffraffs. Like they need to understand like it's a privilege. I mean, if an OnlyFans chick is gonna make you pay for a picture, then we gonna make you pay for BS. And I'll land my plane.
And Robbie, I want to say you're a heavyweight as well, man. I come in your spaces and just and sit down and get educated, bro. Juan, what's on your mind?
Well, I was going to give some examples of cannibalism. There, we're not speaking about when people are in a plane crash and they have to eat each other, and we're not speaking about Jeffrey Dahmer, who had a fetish. It's not his people's culture to eat people as much as we as much as we want it to be. We don't see arms and legs at the grocery store. So collectively people in America do not practice cannibalism. But back in Europe they certainly did because Romans drank the blood of fallen gladiators, and King Charles II of England ingested this preparation called the King's Drops. They would take ground up human skull and mix it in alcohol, and that was supposed to help him with his headache. In another book, a Franciscan apothecary blended blood into marmalade, and that was a treatment. And a German medical catalog sold mummies as medicine. And we also already discussed the fact that they made mummy tea. So that's just some of the recorded stuff. Plus, we have the Delectable Negro, which shows that they have issues. There's also a lot of evidence of them eating people that were lynched, and some rumors around the word picnic and stuff like that. In the Middle East, you have the Egyptians. Yeah, they had to have a sacrament to not practice cannibalism and human sacrifice. So they had to, like, here comes a bull again. They had a tradition of eating enemies. And so they decided that they were going to eat them in the form of a sacred bull. So they tried to curb it, but they still did like a representation of that. Um, and so in funerary rites, they will eat part of the ancestor. And, you know, and this is kind of something that people do all over in Asia. They have a current group now. The name is AGHORI. AGHORI. And these guys are Hindu worshipers. They worship Shiva and Kali, and they eat human flesh and they drink from skulls for some reason. They do that right now. That's their culture. They eat corpses though. Uh, China has a lot of cannibalism. A whole books about their cannibalism. Now in Papua New Guinea, now we're down in you know Oceania. What they would do is eat part of the ancestor's brain to gain the wisdom. Again, the whole mentality of getting the quality. This is what the Chinese medicine is rested on. It's like, well, if you eat these testicles, you're going to get the testosterone of this tiger, and you're going to be, hot stuff. Um, anyway, these guys were eating so much brain that they got a disease called Kuru, which is like mad cow disease type of disease. It eats your brain. And a lot of people in the Oceania area on those islands in the South Pacific, they are into cannibalism and a whole lot of things I can't say on here. And now we get to the Aztecs. If we get to the Americas, and, they had to do a human sacrifice every day, and these people were drinking their blood, removing their hearts, roasting their hearts, and doing all kinds of things with these people. And let's see. Yeah, that basically covers all the continents except for Antarctica.
Yeah, that's very very fascinating and disturbing. Now she brought up Cali in India. We see a high influx of Indians coming to the United States, and to my understanding, it's been brought to my attention that there's a caste system starting to develop in the tech industry, which is the hottest industry for our for Gen Z. You know, with the degree in computer science from a reputable university, with just a bachelor's degree, you can make upwards of $200,000 a year in the tech industry, and not even be an engineer. An engineering student can graduate can make even more, but these industries are being dominated by foreigners from India. Now, Awani just brought up the practices of Indians with respect to their religion. She mentioned the goddess Kali. Now, if y'all want to get a quick introduction to what Wani was talking about, go to YouTube and type in Indiana Jones plus Cali. You can put the plus sign Cali, and you'll see a scene that some of you who are old enough to remember. I'm an '80s baby. If you were an '80s baby or early '90s baby, you remember that scene out of Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom where they do a Cali sacrifice. That's what Wani was talking about. And these are the type of people that we're dealing with. These are the cultures that are melding with us. Most of us are out of the Christian, the Baptist or Christian church and tradition, and we're mailing with people who are perfectly cool. We're ripping somebody heart out their chest. I'm just saying, Robbie, what's on your mind? Robert Blue, you there?
Hey, what's going? Yeah, there was Mississippi was before me.
Oh wow! If you want to speak, put up your hand. I didn't see Mississippi. If you want to speak, ladies and gentlemen, put up your hand. Go ahead, Mississippi. And I didn't know if Trisha. I didn't know if you want to speak. I see you, but I didn't see a hand.
No, I brought her up on the stage because she couldn't hear in the
Oh,
audience. She
okay.
may
Go ahead,
say
Mississippi.
something if she wants. She could raise her hand.
Got it.
Oh no, I was piggybacking off of what Wani said. She's right. I think the tribe she was talking about in Papua New Guinea was called the Sambi tribe. I know for a fact that the Sambi tribe also has another really bizarre, really shocking culture. I know that in Papua New Guinea, the Sambia tribe, they have like this rite of passage into manhood
Uh
where
oh.
where they
Here we go.
require where they require boys, young boys, ages 6 to 10, to have a
Don't
cane.
do it.
Uh,
Don't do it.
to have a cane is really disgusting, stuck up their nose to cause them to bleed. And then those boys are forced to ingest what's called jurongdu, which is pretty much sperm or semen from their fathers and from their older brothers during the course
Jeez.
during the course of oral sex on their own fathers or their own older brothers or older boys or men from the tribe as an initiation. And as those boys progress into initiation, they go from being the receiver of the semen to the donor of the semen to children that are coming up under them. And they still practice this today. And another thing about cannibalism that goes on there and everything. You know, sometimes they eat the women, you know, for various reasons. They had like this documentary on it a long time ago and everything, but they removed a lot of that stuff from YouTube. But I guess they had some kind of funerary practice, I guess, where when certain members of the tribe died, they sort of like cut niches or pieces off of them and everything, and they feast on them because they believe something about their ancestral spirit going on inside of those people. And they believe that the way to get those ancestral spirits to go forward is to ingest the people, similar to what me and Wani were both saying. And it's a lot of pretty gross stuff, and I know that in India they have it's really disturbing. But Moana, you mentioned that in Europe, they have a big history of blood drinking. Well,
Mhm.
we can see that today. I mean, we spoke about this a long time ago, but today in Sweden they still have, in Norway too, they have blood pancakes where they serve it in Finland as well, where it's made from reindeer blood, where they fry it up and turn it into a pancake. It's a blood pancake. They call it blood platter. I know
Mhm.
I know that in Britain or the UK they got blood pudding where they use blood sausage and things like that. It's a lot of disgusting blood like related. I know in Belarus they do pig blood. They eat that. I know that in Croatia they eat animal eyeballs, tongues, brains with the blood raw. I know that in the Czech Republic, and they got a similar thing where they eat sort of like goat testicles. It's a lot of really disgusting thing, but they got this real thing about blood in a lot of European countries and a lot of their cultures, and they haven't stopped practicing it. They simply don't promote it today because it's kind of disturbing. And a lot of people will think negatively, or I guess it'll reflect negatively on European culture. But yeah, they have an entire heritage of blood. They drink blood. They love blood. They love things that are medium rare. They love, like in Iceland, they love to eat rotten shark. They call it hakal, I think. I know in Hungary they eat fried blood. It doesn't matter what animal it comes from; they just want fried blood, and I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin. Not to cut you off, bro, but I got to piggyback. I'm from Wisconsin, and they got something out here called a cannibal sandwich. That's these folks eating raw meat. All right, y'all look it up. It's called a cannibal sandwich. Around Christmas time,
What
you
kind
got
of
some
meat?
Caucasoid homeboys or homegirls. You go to their house. Don't eat that cannibal sandwich because it ain't nothing but some raw ground beef sat up with some parsley on the top and some crackers on the side. So it is
Didn't we
absolutely in their culture.
didn't we already discuss that eating raw? Didn't we already have this situation with the mad cow disease on people? Never mind. Um, so let me tell you the mindset of this tribe and why they're doing this semen drinking. Because I was traumatized, and when I get traumatized, I read more. It didn't help. So they think women
Wani, I
are.
can't look away either. It's like an illness, isn't it? It's like
Uh,
you
uh,
try to look away and you look.
this, I need to get to the bottom of this. So they view women as they feel that women are so powerful. And this is the South Pacific, but it's also a mentality in Australia among the natives, but they don't do the semen tribe that the semen ritual that I know of. But they do other stuff that I don't want to talk about. But their attitude is that women are way more powerful than them and they must be suppressed. So this is their attempt at suppressing women. They say that the woman is a succubus, right? So Tar, you listening? They say the woman is a succubus. It's the nature of the female. And the male children must be isolated away from the mother when they're around 7 years old. And that's when they do all this stuff with semen, anal sex, and all this stuff. Now they feel like their semen is mana, and mana is life's a vital essence to them. It's also the name of their religion. And they do it through suction and by penetration. And it's an all male encounter, uh, and it initiates you from any spells that your wife will have upon you when you get married. So after you do all this crap with these men, when you're ready to get married, now your wife won't be able to, get you to take the trash out or do any household chores. She won't have any power over you because you are now gay. No, you're not supposed to be gay though. They say there's nothing, um they don't act out and do any gay stuff, so they say. They always say that, but then they're really hiding behind the bushes. They don't like women anymore. So whatever these men are doing, it makes men unable to be bossed around by women. You can't be henpecked after all that sperm ingestion, right? Hanging out with the guys. They've turned the whole tribe into gays,
Wow,
basically.
that's institutionalized pedophilia. It's like a pedophilia ritual. That's terrible, Wani. We're gonna go to Trisha. She want to say something. We're gonna go to Robbie. Go ahead, Trisha.
Hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. I hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm very nervous. Um, I just wanted to say I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I just started learning about all of these things. I guess in the last couple of years, I had taken a break from listening because I got kind of depressed. I I guess you could call me a Pan Africanist. I just wanted unity. I wanted us all to come together and help one another. And I had a utopian view of Black people, and I'd never met any Africans until I was an adult. I was born and raised in Florida, and my people mostly come out of Georgia on both sides. And when I started meeting people coming from other areas, I just noticed that, like what some of the other speakers were saying, they just didn't think the way that we did. They didn't. It's like something was missing. I could tell it, and the more I tried to like reach out, um, they didn't seem to respond. I don't know how else to explain it. Now I'm living in Texas now, and I'm surrounded by a lot of people from different places, and I feel so alone. I I I think I heard somebody say once that we were being replaced, kind of like we were being, erased. And I have three sons. I fear for my children. I fear for my future grandchildren because I don't want our ways to die. I don't want my great grandmother raised me. I was raised by my great grandmother, my great grandfather. My great grandfather sat me down when I was 5 years old and told me that we came from Africa and we were slaves. And then my great grandmother told me that her family had lineage to Indians here in the Americas. And so I've known my entire life that I had one line of Black people coming from Africa and another line of Black people here in America. Um, and so, I was like most of all of us. I just wanted us to come together. But as time went on and I started meeting more and more people from other places, it became apparent to me that this is not what they want. Growing up in Florida, that's all I was surrounded with was people from the Caribbean. And they had this really hateful vitriol towards me. And I could never figure out why. Like what did we do to you? Um and as I'm sitting here listening to just the diet of some of the people, and I used to get so upset. And a matter of fact, I just lost a good friend, possibly. I don't know. I don't know if we'll reconcile our friendship, but you know, she was like really against pork. There's a lot of people that don't like pork and stuff. And I'm listening to y'all talk about these foods that people are eating. I bet not never hear nobody ever in life drag another Black American about eating pork after hearing all that. That is unbelievable, the stuff that people are eating around the world. And we ragging on somebody for some chitlins? Are you serious? For some chitlins? We mad at people with some bacon? I will take bacon any day for that foolishness that I'm hearing on here. I will eat bacon 24/7, 365 days a week. Days, months, years I eat bacon. I ain't never heard no mess like that before. And I'm just sitting here like I I I feel so sad because I feel like something I can't put my finger on it. I can't, and I tried to explain to my friend because she was like, I guess I had been telling her I've been listening to Tariq, and I had been trying to tell her what I was listening to, and I think that it kind of scared her because I'm scared. We both were scared. We didn't know what to make of all of this. And the first thing she told me, she said, "Well, it's divisive. It's divisive, Trisha. It's divisive." And I said, "No, it isn't. Why is it divisive for us to have our own, to be our own people? We are an ethnic group. Why is that divisive? Why does that threaten people for us to say we want something for ourselves? Why is that threatening people? I don't want our traditions, the things that my great grandma and my great granddaddy fought for. My great granddaddy had a third grade education, and he moved from Georgia with his wife, my great grandma, and his three daughters. Went to Florida, bought land. He had multiple properties when he passed away, and he left all of that to his girls.
And we got all these degrees and ain't got one property.
Exactly. Third grade. Third grade education. My great grandma went to the fifth grade. The house I grew up in, my granddaddy built that, and he never went to school for it. Self-taught. You can't tell me. I'm 53 years old, and I am afraid. that-
I thought you were in your 20s.
I'm
Yeah.
53. I'm so scared. Like, when I walk up to somebody black now, I don't even know how to interact. Is they American? And what country you? I don't even know. I don't even know what to do. I don't even know how to interact with these people, and they're not friendly. I, so I was sitting at work, and I was sitting with somebody that's from another country, and me and the other workmate was sitting there, and we talking and we laughing, and this workmate from Louisiana, and I'm from Florida, but I'm living here in Texas, and she just seems so I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to bridge the gap there. I don't, and then when somebody says I'm African, I kind of, not that I'm upset about having African DNA, but I'm upset because I'm not truly an African. I'm not. The more Africans I meet, the more I realize I'm not an African. That's what I feel. The more of them I meet, you know what, Trisha, you ain't no African.
No,
Now
you're
you might
not.
got some African blood, but you ain't no African, honey. You not African. And
Nope.
that's where I'm saying, when people try to make you feel like you hate yourself. I don't have people tell, "Oh, you just a self." Do you know I went on a spiritual quest. Went and searched all this information. I had all these different books. Um, I had Queen of Four. I had all these people. I was learning everything there was to know. And then what a disappointment. What a letdown when I finally realized I wasn't an African. After all that, I don't spend 30 something years, and now I have to relearn everything and try to put this, because like what he said, I think it was the speaker of Mississippi. We don't have that type of culture. We have this culture of embracing each other and coming in love. This shine away from another black, it's foreign to me. It's foreign. I don't even know how to do it, but I'm trying to do it because I see that if we don't figure this thing out, we're going to get erased.
Preach.
We're going to be erased if we don't figure this thing out. And I don't mean no disrespect. I love Africa. I love the Caribbean. I love all my brothers and sisters around the world. But we got to save our people right now.
Yeah, we gotta love ourselves first, Trisha.
We got to save our people. And that's going to come first. And I pray to the ancestors that, and I got my grandma and my granddad on the wall here. I pray that what they did for me, because they raised me and they instilled all this stuff in me, that it wasn't in vain. That everything that my granddaddy had taught me, that I can pass it on to my sons. My oldest son is 27, and I just see something slipping away. I see it. And now when I go somewhere, I had a head wrap on one day going in the store. Somebody say, "Oh, is you Haitian or you from No, what? I mean, now it's like I feel like strange, like I'm being stripped of who I am. Like, why is it that you automatically assume I'm from somewhere else? I was born and raised here. I mean, I don't know anything about these countries that you talking about, and I'm still having people come up to me and assume that just because I'm black and just because this other person over here is black, that we're the same people. And I'm trying to explain, no, we're not. We're totally different. That line of demarcation, it has to be drawn in the sand. I'm so sorry that it had to turn out like this, but it has to be now. And with that, I'm gonna, as y'all be saying, land my plane.
Well, Trisha, I appreciate it. I'm glad you came up to speak. It can be very intimidating your first time coming up to speak, but I think you did well, and you identified the problem. You said, like you said, I'm paraphrasing you, we're on the verge of being erased. And unfortunately, when you look back at what Dr. Claude Anderson said about the enslaved African, we were trained to put ourselves, put other people before ourselves, and we've done that so long that we're starting to disappear. But I'm happy to see that we're starting to get the awareness to know that we're disappearing, and we're saying, "Hey, hold up, let's draw a line in the sand, a line of demarcation." Um, Trisha, you're welcome on my stage at any time, so make sure you keep coming back. Robbie Blue, what's on your mind?
What's going on? Wonderful information. I just wanted to piggyback on something that Sister Wani said as far as prions. But when you guys had that other discussion, I went from being grossed out to cracking up when Wani was talking because it just sounded so funny. I said, "Oh my God, I cannot believe what I'm hearing." That is just, yeah. But what I was going to say is what I find interesting is between diet and practices of incest. It comes by no surprise that Europeans were more aggressive and more, you got more serial killers, you got more this because it causes neurological problems. That's why to this day a lot of them have neurological problems. So in a way, their own arrogance and prejudice is going to destroy them
Wow.
because think about it. I mean, it starts to make sense. I mean, I'm not trying to be ignorant, but think about it. That's why you start having that whole spiritual debauchery with the whole Greco-Roman thing. It's like their diet becomes very unhealthy with the raw meat and all that. And they say prions can be passed to a certain degree, you know, through pregnancy, but also I think the biggest thing is incest. So they're doing so much to their genetic code because of their own prejudice and ignorance and classism that some of them who are smart start to say, well, that's why we do need some degree of melanin. So that's why they're doing all this. They're trying to find a way they're trying to find a way to get the benefits of melanin by retaining some of their European features, and that's why they'll see Asians as honorary Aryans, or they'll pick and choose through Latinos, like like they're going through lemons and apples at the grocery store. Like, this one's too brown. This one is bruised. Oh, this one is light enough. Might just pass. I don't think I'm going to get an afro on Olmec nose. I don't think I see any Negroid dreams. That's the game that they're playing. But in reality, the only thing I take solace is their greed shrinks their brain, so they're about to collapse the Roman Empire again. They're always greedy, and then now that we think about it, they do a good job of hiding all their genetic disorders and all that. Because sometimes, I hear people talking in spaces, and when some of these women say some of the diseases they have or some of these dudes, I have to Google it. I'm like, man, what the hell kind of disease and disorder is that? In Hollywood, they do a good job of making it seem like they're flawless, like an angel of light. But the average person, they got neurological problems, they got drug problems, they got all these sexual behavior disorders. So I'm thinking a lot of this stuff they put in those psychology books is based on their own experiences dealing with their own people. That's why a lot of it doesn't apply to us. So why are you trying to project this? They're always talking about projection and insecurity and personality disorder. No, you're talking about yourself. And I'll land my plane.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, Robbie, and it's so true. We got people running around here in our lineage. following, listening to doctors that are telling them something that don't even apply to them. It's not even us. One day we're gonna learn. Let's see. Um, I think I lost track of who was next. Um,
The black
Wani?
receiver.
Okay, the black. Go ahead.
What's going on, Professor?
Hey, brother, what's going on?
Warning, everybody else in the room. I hope everybody blessed. I felt what the Sister Tracy was saying when it came down to a lot of people being scared and not knowing how to go about dealing with people that do look like us but not from our lineage. And as I talk to a lot of people and try to inform my community on these things, it does make a lot of people uncomfortable because we it's fucked up, but it we history of embracing so many people and being welcoming. It is kind of weird to kind of like, I ain't gonna say shun, but just dissing ourselves from other people outside our lineage, because it it does, especially when you come from like uh Pan Africanism or having that type of mind frame of we all one big Negro, we got to fight together to combat white supremacy, and you find out that these folks really don't like you and they be having names about you. It does give you that sick gut feeling like, damn, I've been tricked and I done wasted all my life learning about these folks, and I could have learned about my own people, and I feel like this kind of, it was kind of the trick bag that they wanted. Cause just imagine if more people was connected with their distant relatives within the country, and knew who they people was throughout this country. That's why we were so connected back then, and was able to make the Green Book, because we knew who moved where, and our elders, they stayed talking to each other, long distance calls and everything. Like, I know my granny Bill used to be high talking to her siblings in different parts of the country growing up, and we don't really have that anymore. And I'm starting to hear more and more people saying that we got to bring back family reunions, and like but in a larger span when it comes down to distant cousins, not just your immediate state family. So I feel like once we start doing that, getting more connected with our distant relatives in other states, it'll make us feel more comfortable with doing like our elders did when it came down to meeting people, or when you, like the example you like to use, Professor, when you have a new friend and they come around and your granny automatically asks them who your people is.
Yep,
Cause
sure
it
did.
it it may seem rude to us today because we somewhat assimilated to more into white culture, but that's how we understand and vet people back then. So I feel like once we get back to that stage where we can comfortably, know what I'm saying, and find different strategies to vet people instead instead of this lineage check like we do it on Twitter, because doing that in real life, it does, know what I'm saying, hurt some feelings, and yeah, it does bring out a little anger in you. So once we find like different methods and actually doing that in person with people, and weeding out the those who might be open minded into understanding what this really is and how it will benefit us, well, yeah, we gonna be, you know what I'm saying, in the exact place that they continue to be in fear of. And it's that's us actually unifying the way we need to, and taking control of our institutions and the rules and regulations of how you deal with us.
Yeah, no cap, no cap. Appreciated the black. We're gonna go to Sotar, um, Rob the Whip, and then Head and Shoulders. Mississippi will have last words. Go ahead, Sotar.
Hey, yeah, you called me out, Wani.
I just
Yeah,
want you to see the dangers of massively, massively suppressing women.
I
Yeah, and
listen.
tracking through the snow.
listen, I'm okay. I'm American Taliban, whatever. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. But regardless, I was talking Mississippi. You got to be kind of careful, man. Like I have an iron deficiency, and I know the Maasai have an iron deficiency too. I will pass the fuck out if I don't take some iron supplements, and that's why they take those reindeer pancakes with that blood in it. Like if I was in like I was camping, I would probably have to eat the same thing to keep
You
going.
think that's because of the temperature? They might
Yeah, I
need
read.
to.
Yeah, I read that. I was reading that because I told you all before I was wrestling in Denver, and I don't know if y'all know who King Mo is. I passed out, some of these coaches say they thought I was a bitch, but then when I wrestled for them in Louisiana, they're like, "Oh damn!" And King Mo's African. He said, "You know what, man? I think you got this blood issue like us." And so I started taking these iron supplements, and I got my blood checked too. And they said, "Yeah, you don't the iron doesn't attach to your red blood cells,
Man,
and it doesn't transfer."
every time I fly in Denver, I get a headache. Like it's too high. It's up real high.
Yeah. The altitude is very vicious on me. I don't do good in alt, and I don't get used to it.
Mm-mm.
I can stay there for weeks and I'm still sick.
Right.
Yeah, it took me 3 days to adjust. But going back to what you were saying, Wani never watched movies. So I'm gonna say it's a movie called Tears of the Sun. Professor, I know you seen that with them seals had to go get that lady out
Hey, who starred
Nigeria.
it? Who
No, I
starred
hadn't
it?
seen it, but I want to see it. That sounds cool.
Bruce Willis in it, but you see it's two FBA Navy SEALs with him in the team. One's a sniper and one's like a medic, and they're like killing all these Africans with silencers and everything. They're trying to cut this lady's tits off, and Bruce Willis
Oh,
said, "Hold on, put the."
I hadn't seen it all the way through. I seen bits and pieces
You
of
see
it.
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Oh man! At the end, it was fucked up because they were about to kill the seals, and they had to call these jet fighters in to go bomb everybody. But you got to watch that. Wayne never watched movies. If you watch it, you'll see what you were saying, Wayne. All the stuff they were doing.
I do watch movies. You're just naming some guy
No,
movies.
no, you look at Lifetime movies. You do like that
No,
divorce
I
porn movies.
don't.
That's
I
what you do.
hate those. Lifetime. That is an insult.
You know, one that watch foreign films and documentaries.
I watch a lot of documentaries. That's true. I used to watch tons and tons of foreign films because I was shamed into it by my cousins.
Oh yeah, that's true. Let's see. Head and Shoulders. Head and Shoulders, you up?
Everybody. Shout
Hey,
out to
what's
you
up, brother?
guys. Uh, Wani on the spot and Professor on the P's and Q's. Shout out to y'all. Um,
What's up, brother?
yeah, so it was a lot of stuff y'all said earlier. So y'all kind of covered it and hit the nail on the coffin with all of that information. It was kind of creepy. Not even gonna lie, but of course, just like Wani said, freaks me out. Now I got to learn some more. So it's kind of funny. But as far as this, it's good that we're hosting these spaces because for decades and really centuries, we were upholding the image of Africa. And the reason that they got what they got and what they were able to scam off of us is because we gave them an artificial leg up. And what we're doing now is because some people are in their feelings like, oh, they're talking bad on us. It's like, no, we're just talking the truth. If the truth, just like when we speak on pale skinned people, if the truth is that damning, then you need to change something up. But that's just how it is. So as far as have they ever led a genocide? Yeah, these ethnocides that they have against each other, very disturbing that they do all the time. But as far as getting to some of the other points that people were making, I think there's a bit of confusion here. They're not black, just like we're not African. And I know that we're using foundational black American, many of us. That's just as it's like saying orange. It's like saying that it's like a double, but they're actually just not even black. We're mistakenly calling them black, and we're giving it to them the same way that we've given people country music, reggae, salsa, and all this other stuff. Every time we keep giving things and allowing other people to use what we have actually designated as ourselves or created, we have this whole thing of doing that. And I like to push back against this argument about how we lost our culture in slavery. We lost some of it, but if you look through history, just like any other peoples that have been enslaved for even longer than we have, if you look in Europe, there are people that would be in modern day, I think it's Croatia. I think they were in bondage for like 800 years and they still were able to keep their innate culture if you look back to it. Here's the things that we kept that other people do not have: cleanliness, uh, the ability to not be cannibals, the ability to have a trust network, even though it keeps getting sabotaged, and we kind of go through cycles of, can we trust this person or not? But if you really look at it, net, we can trust each other more than white people do. It's just that we get constantly sabotaged because they're in the lead. They only, and I mean only, work together to the extent that they are holding us down. They can't even work together on China. They're all trying to go against China, and look at Russia. Look at some of the European countries. They're like, hey, look, we about to help out China. They cannot get together. But if it comes against black Americans, they are all 100% on board. Is some of them starting to crack?
Preach.
Some of them. But for the most part, that's where they are. They are very, very tribalistic. Very tribalistic. And here's another thing about Africans not being black, Caribbeans not being black. Just look at white people. I mean, they only allowed the Irish to come in after a hazing period to be classified as white. Hispanics used to be white, and they were like, yeah, y'all not white anymore. Indians have been trying to become white for the longest. So just kind of look at it like that. It's you could either look at it as a status, or more accurately, it is our lineage, as that is. But either way, however it's easier for you, because I had to really consider this and think about this for a while because it seemed kind of foreign to me. But they are not black. They are not black, and we can't look at them as brothers and sisters, because I know a lot of times we're like, oh, they're our cousins. They're not. No, they're no longer. They're no more our cousins than an Indian is in India. And I'm telling you, I use this example all the time because there are some kinky hair Indians, just like there are some straighter hair Africans. There are Africans with blue eyes. Now, those Africans are not going to call those Indians African. They will not. I've gone over this time and time again. They will not. You gotta. It's like once they realize, oh wait a minute, he's using this example to say, oh, we're not black, so now we're gonna say yes. That's the only time I've heard Africans call some of those Indians uh, uh, African. Otherwise, if you just say it and they don't think that you're going to use that as an argument to say, hey, we're not you and you're not us, they will, with their chest, wholeheartedly be like, yeah, these Indians are not us. They're Asian. So you guys got to think of it that way. They are not black. So on this OMB, as we're all filling that out, we got, I think, another hour or two. I don't know what time zone they're using for that. It might even be closed by now. But as far as that, that is where that is. And I want to make one announcement regarding this. Trump's giving out all this money. We got to make sure they ain't black. They're not us. They're not freedmen. They're not foundational black Americans. We need that money that is going out for the AI infrastructure. I got people tagged in it. We got to keep pushing $100 billion that goes to us. We got to have this infrastructure to build up our highways that's in our areas. We got to get Jackson, Mississippi to get their water and all of their infrastructure built up. We still got to get Flint, Michigan fixed up. We got to get Chicago, East Chicago fixed up. Gary, Indiana. There are so many areas around this country that we got to get fixed up, and that goes to black people. We cannot associate these other people with black because then we get this Haitian enclave here. We got that huge, relatively huge Nigerian enclave in Houston where they're cops and they're beating down on the black folk, or they're the prison guards and they're beating down on the black folk and probably doing who knows what else with their creepy asses. They're doing all types of stuff to us. But then if they're labeled as black, or we keep looking at them as cousins, and I know it's hard to do because you're so used to doing something your whole life, but this is part of our culture. Y'all got to realize that. People keep saying in slavery, We lost some things. Nah, because if that was the case, if that was the case, we would not have retained this. And here's one last thing, and I'll land my plane. Isn't it very interesting that so many of us, and I don't, and Professor, correct me if I'm wrong here, that so many of us have associated ourselves with Egypt. We didn't associate ourselves with the rest of Africa. And come to find out, now we're starting to see, or well, not now, but we're starting to realize again with our Renaissance that all of the hieroglyphics that are over here in the Americas, all of that stuff, like where do we get that? Like I don't remember picking up a book. I just remember my grandma, my great grandma, and then them talking about it. That means that had to have been passed down and trickled down from generation to generation from us being here on the soil. That we
Yeah,
know
it's true.
are connected.
It's true. If you look up Micmac, the Micmac Native Americans, which look like light skinned black folk, they weren't the red native. Dr. Sharshy McIntyre was Micmac, but they're in Nova Scotia. They write in Metanetter. They wrote and spoke Metanetter. So it's some man. That's a whole nother space, brother. I used to work at the Smithsonian, and that information is being suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah, see, we know that we have some connection to Egypt, but the rest of Africa, they foreign.
Well, we do because all of the men keep getting a notification when they do their DNA that they're related to the King Ramses III and the Amarna mummies. A substantial amount of men. It only shows on the male side. It's on the paternal side. It's not on the maternal side. So a woman is never going to get that notification. I wanted to review real quick. Um, so the other people that we're speaking about, they have religious terrorists that terrorize their town, steals entire schoolgirls. They have regular street gang crime. They have 400 scams. They have murderous police. Remember the NSARS program? NSARS, their police just pull them over and blow their heads off and take their stuff and kill them. Just outright kill them. No discussions. They have tribal attacks based on you not being their tribe. That's the Fulani herdsmen. They just, go into town and cut your heads off. And they actually tucked the heads right under the person's armpit and had everyone lined up in an orderly manner and then covered them up with sheets. I don't get it. That was a certain kind of murder because at the market they just killed everybody and left. And the police are scared to come to see about it. They have, that's like considered a tribal attack. They have full scale genocide into the millions. One of the largest ones was the 10 million people in the Congo, which they blamed on King Leopold, which they said he never stepped foot there. But even if he did step foot there, it was just a handful of Belgian officers telling these imbeciles to do all that killing. And again, we don't have any pits of bodies. These people leave big pits of bodies where the next to die can look over and see chopped off heads and body parts in a pit. So they get terrorized prior to dying. We have expat communities all over um, the world. We don't bring gangs with us. We don't have blocked passports. Um, we don't have organized crime here in the United States of America. We have uh, low level crime. And in fact, white people have more types of crime than we do because they have biker crime, they have white power gang member crime, they have regular crime, they have all kinds of crime. Um, Again, we have a different uh, persona over in the global community because of all the work with the Tuskegee Airmen, all the charitable organizations we were associated with, all the Olympians that people have seen. We have all the ballerinas that are global, Leontine Price. We have all these opera singers. We have, Michael Jackson, Muhammad Ali, and Josephine Baker. All of these people have been doing decades of entertainment, which put us in a better light than some of the other people we're talking to. So when people see them, they don't want to see them. They have to pretend to be us. So, another thing I want to say about crime is that the FBI is not required to report crime. That's why when 26 children died at Sandy Hook Elementary School, the FBI listed 0 murders. They're not going to let all those murders be in that town and drive the property values down, but they have no problem driving the property values down in Chicago. So they list everything that happens in Chicago, which makes it look like we're the only people committing crimes, and that's not true. 96% of black men don't have anything to do with going to jail and crime, and 98% of white men don't. So for us to just spout out things in rooms sometime and say mass incarceration, we're all in jail, we're all on drugs. It's not true. It is not true. We're not all in jail and we're not all on drugs. In fact, just the opposite is true. Just wanted to say that a lot of times you see crime and you find out when these people go to court, like that big fight in that Asian nail shop, those people were all foreign. The nail shop owners, immigrants, and the Caribbean people getting hit in the head with brooms, immigrants. A lot of times these people will do these horrible crimes and they get attributed to us. One of the other crimes was, I don't know if people saw this, this girl was mugged in Crown Heights and they stole her shoes off her feet, basically mugging a little teenager, a bunch of boys. They were all Caribbeans. Also, the Crown Heights riot, that was attributed to us. And we had these clowns, Al Sharpton coming out. We got to make sure that the black people and the Jews get along. We didn't have a fight with Jews. We didn't have a fight with Jews. Jews ran over a South American child and a Trinidadian immigrant ran around and tried to stab anyone that looked Jewish. That was attributed to us. So we don't have all this crime. We have absorbed all these foreigners with their own ideas of how things are supposed to go into our into our communities, and then we don't want to let them go, especially in New York. Don't want to let them go. If you show these people pictures from the 1950s, you say, well, what, everybody was well dressed, mannerable, going along their way, minding their business, and then all of a sudden, all this action starts happening and everybody goes down in flames. Well, we had to delineate just to see what's happening.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point, Wani. We're going to go on to Rob the Whip, and Mississippi will have last words.
What's up? I want to kind of caveat on what you were saying earlier when you touched bases on the cannibalism, and I just wanted to say during the job that I did, going back to that, one of the things we had to do become a subject matter expert, a SME, in whatever country we were at odds in with, and come up with a plan of attack. So you had to drill down on everything and know everything about the culture, the weather, the landmass, logistics of the country, financial status of the country, religious aspect of the country, rituals of the countries, and I found that in every country, these older countries, they all had cannibalism. They practiced some form of cannibalism in these old countries. Um, their ideology has always been, and it's carried over to this satanic thing. Alexander Crowley and all these other things in our country now. These older countries, you got to kind of watch how you move over there because they really believe in like there's power in blood. Uh, the Satanists now here in America, they kidnap children and scare them just to get the adrenochrome out of them and kill them and drink their blood. These are practices from these old countries, so it's nothing new. It's very old practices. Like you said, the Aztecs, all the way over to Africa, all the way over to Afghanistan, and same thing with pedophilia. Over in Afghanistan, we my God, man, I could tell you stories about pulling children out of situations and finding calluses on their behinds where they're raped because they believe over in Afghanistan that women are for procreation and boys are for pleasure, and that's a lot of that over there in the Middle East. That's one of those things not talked about, but yet they say They don't believe in homosexuality. So um, they say uh, Dubai is the Vegas of the Middle East, and God can't see into Dubai, so a lot of them go to Dubai to do a lot of debauchery over there in the Middle East. So it's once you learn, like you get hip to the game and you see a lot of stuff that's going on, you find out that it's all rooted in Satanism. A lot of it is just their own region. Every region has their own way of pledging their allegiance to Satan. So I'm just laying my plane with that. It's something to think about.
So they say boys are for pleasure and women are for procreation and they're not gay. The not gay part is very so I wonder so they're probably going on the theory of you can't throw shame when you're a child because that's basically what one of the religious documents I read said you can do things with children because they can't throw shame. Okay, like a dog, it can never say you're doing this to me. So they'll abuse a child up to a certain age, and then I guess once they get older, they can throw shade, and they would call that being gay, because they know exactly what they're doing at that point.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
must be something like that.
Well, they did the same thing in the English, the knights. They would take their little boys with them when they went to war, and have the way to, like I said, the knights would take little young boys and teenagers with them to take care of their horses and pitch tents and give them food, and they would also have sex with them. So these older countries have deep roots in pedophilia and human sacrifice and cannibalism. Every old country, all these older countries from Europe all the way down to the South Pacific, man, they all have practices in their culture of those things. So it's nothing new. It's not talked about a lot, but it's very deep rooting. The more you start to dig and find out about these countries, you be like, man, it's a lot of screwed up stuff that goes on that's not talked about. So
And it's all for the same reason, which is very suspicious. They want to gain the power of the animal or individual that they're ingesting. They feel like they're going to get the power of that person.
for the most part, yeah. And just like I said, the Satanists here in America, Alexander Crowley's people, um, they do the same thing. They take children. That's why child trafficking is so fluent. They take children and get the blood sacrifice and drink their blood to try to stay young. So that adrenochrome they call it. You can look up and read up on that stuff. But I'm gonna land my plane with that.
All right, last speaker it will be Mississippi. Mississippi, go ahead and land your plane.
Okay, so overall, I agree fully with everybody what they were saying on the stage, and to what Trisha was saying earlier and everything about people, having sort of like culture shock from Pan Africanism and everything, and then seeing that now we're not related to these people, having nothing to do with them. I think that one of the biggest grifts that you know that these foreigners and Pan Africans use against Black Americans today is pretending that they somehow help us. And I think their goal is to push their own agendas, which it is. Because think about what they do. They study our history, they study the impacts of racism on us today, and then they pretend to offer us some kind of help by telling us to return to Africa, a place that most of us have never been, with the goal of number one, imposing Pan Africanist ideas on us. Number two, erasing our heritage and identity. And number three, decentering us from our work and our roots here in this land. They get remittances to finance and support African causes, and they blind us to fighting on their behalf so that they can attach their causes to ours in order to subvert and redirect focus and resources from our struggles in America to theirs back in Africa. And that's why the Africans and the Pan Africans need us all to be one big African, because it allows them to generate emotional pressure to make us feel like we're obligated to cape for Africa at our own expense based on flat blackness. To use that as a stepping stone to suit their own needs and get ahead, like a bridge over troubled waters. Once they get across, they never look back and do anything to repair that bridge that they used to get across that river. Whenever these foreigners and these would be allies come into our faces asking us for help, what we need to start doing, we need to have a look at what tangible benefits they will give us in that deal. And if it ain't nothing that we can benefit from direct, or if it's all vague or it's just symbolic, then we need to keep it pushing. And we need to know these people come from a culture of scamming that only benefits their own group and everything. And another thing that we need to get back to and everything is what the young lady was saying earlier, is that we do need to take up trades again. Basically, we need to learn how to do things.
Facts.
Our grandparents and great grandparents, especially mine, they knew how to do all sorts of things, and they did pass that down to my father and my mother, and they sort of traced some of it down to me and my brothers. And like I said, as Black Americans, we need to do that and regain our independence as a collective. I mean, you think about it nowadays, folks don't know how to do much or nothing. I mean, for example, a lot of people and everything, like I know how to, like, for example, I know how to operate a tractor. I know how to fix a tractor. I know how to drive a truck. I know how to fix a truck. I know how to fix a car. I know how to install a gas stove. I know how to fish. I know how to hunt. I know how to gut a hog. I know how to fillet a fish. I know how to skin a deer. I know how to cook a deer. I know how to raise chicken. I know how to build a coop. I know how to raise pigs. I know how to make ground flour. I know how to fix a door, replace roofs. I know how to do this stuff because my parents passed that on to me. A lot of people lost that skill because a lot of them, they tried to, when they get to college and things like that, they just teaching you book work, and they teaching you, what they call education. All it is indoctrination, because, but at the same time, they robbing us of our actual identity, our actual cultural identity, our skills and everything, by telling us that, the stuff that we learn in medicine or science or things like that is more beneficial than having a trade skill, a hard solid trade, something that we know how to do. My grandmother, she knew that she could depend on her man, her husband, which was my grandfather, to be able to fix things around the house, fix the car, go out and do things, chop wood, do things and everything to keep her good, to keep the kids good, to keep them fed. They might have had to do odd jobs. They might have had to do their own farming, their own gardening, but they knew how to be self-sufficient and self-sustainable. And I think that that's what a lot of Black Americans who left the South, they've lost that skill and they've lost that ability because they've been detached from their southern roots, and they've been told by this mainstream society that going to college and getting an education and letting the white people indoctrinate them with these ideas that they don't need that, or that that's beneath them, and to go to some specialized career is better than having a solid trade. So I think that we can definitely go back to the way that we used to be in the past by, going back to our roots in full and everything, going back to our old methods and everything, learning how to do things. Like, for example, I mean, we can learn how to, detect, track things, track a deer in the forest, track a fox, start a fire, start a garden, grow crops, harvest the crops, build a shed. I mean, a lot of folks forgot how to preserve food in jars. And, I know how to do that. My kids know how to do that. My parents knew how to do that. My grandparents knew how to do that. And a lot of people lost that ability. I ended up having to show one of my buddies how to preserve blueberries, blackberries, and things like that in jars, you know, and they were surprised to know that, and they Black. And you would think, this would be natural, but it's not. And I hate to see that and everything. And it's like I like the young lady said, like the young lady Trisha said, it feels like as Black Americans, our culture is beginning to disappear. Our true culture, the things we knew how to do, the things we knew how to do to survive, is starting to vanish. And we need to get that back. So with that, I'll land, and thank you, Professor. I see Wani's left, but thank her and thank everybody on the stage. And I appreciate the space.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you all. I don't know if Tariq has a space going, but um, no, Wine didn't leave. She got kicked off, but I'm bringing her back up to say the last words. I appreciate y'all. I learned a lot. This is another one in space. It seems like every other space, like I'm the one sitting back getting taught. Y'all taught me a whole lot. Trisha, I'm glad you came. Hopefully you'll come again. I really enjoyed what you had to say. What you said was prophetic because Black Americans are dealing with this across the country, and a lot of us. Never was quite a Pan Africanist, but I could have easily been one because I followed Dr. John Henry Clark, and I had to go to West Africa to say, wait a minute, no, 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 that's not for me. But a lot of us don't feel alone. Is what I'm saying. A lot of us are having that revelation, and it's okay to be proud of who we are. You know what I'm saying? Being proud of who we are does not mean that we're against another group, which is insane. That's that slavery mess. You know what I'm saying? According to Dr. Claude Anderson, we couldn't enjoy our own, fruits of our own labor. But anyway, I really enjoyed y'all today. I learned a lot. Mississippi, I appreciate you're always educating us. And Mississippi was right. We really need to go back to hard skills. We need to learn how to um, do real things with our hands. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I'm a certified college faculty. That means a professor. And for the last 7 years, I've been kind of controversial because I've been telling kids not to go to college. Because as a college professor, I know we're not teaching them shit. I mean, what are we learning in college? A lot of professors are more concerned with lifestyle than the degree in literature, a PhD in literature they got. Teach these kids how to read a book, how to analyze literature. Don't teach them about pronouns. A lot of professors have agendas, which is not okay. I would say this: college is worth it if you're majoring in certain things. Like engineering is critical. Go to college if you want to be an engineer. Go to college if you want to be a medical doctor. We need them. Go to college if you want to be a nurse. We need them. Go to college if you want to be a teacher or educator. We desperately need them. Go to college if you want to be an attorney. The black community desperately needs civil rights attorneys. But going to college just to major in, you know, business, please. What I've noticed in the historically black college world, most of the business professors are Nigerian. Furthermore, like Mark, I'm gonna say Dr. Mark Carter, like Mark Carter said, if you want to learn how to do business, save your tuition and go open a business, open a 501c, open a LLC, and do a mentorship, which goes back to Mississippi's issue of trades. We need mentorship programs. We need trade programs, which I'm gonna address in a future space. So I appreciate you guys. I love y'all. Y'all have a good night. And Wanda, did you have any last words?
Good
All
night.
right. See y'all on Tariq's. Peace out.